Thank you very much. Once again, good evening to all of you. A very warm welcome. A nice cozy evening out here in Bangalore. If you're in Bangalore, you must be loving the weather out here. Great to have you all. See a good audience out here. Indeed, we are privileged to have with us Mr. Hari Menon, founder and CEO of Big Basket, one of the most successful tech entrepreneurs in recent times. Waiting to hear from him. Thank you for being with us, Hari. Thank you for finding time and joining us this evening. Thank you so much.
Pleasure.
We also have a few guests with us. We have guest of Madhu Chanda, guest of Samir Gupta. We also have Mr. CM Pai and Hema Pai, parents of Vinay Pai here. We have Santosh Menon, courtesy Prashant Nair. He's a prospective Rotarian who said he's interested in Rotary, joining Rotary Bangalore Cantonment. We also have two other prospective Rotarians. Sriram Basham is here. Sriram, would you like to say hi? Hey, Sriram.
Hey,
Welcome
hello,
to the
everybody.
club.
Hey.
Hi. I guess one more prospective Rotarian, Priyali, is here. Priyali is the niece of D. Venkatesh. She's supposed to be here. Priyali, if you're here, say hi. We also have a couple of guests from TV Mohan, Susan Manjunath. Susan Manjunath, would you just unmute and say hello to us?
Hello, hi, Manjunath.
Hi.
Hello, everybody.
Hi, Susan. Welcome to Rotary Bangalore Cantonment. We look forward to seeing you more often in the club.
Thank
Anybody
you.
else? Any other guests here? Would you like to unmute and say hello to us?
Yeah, my guest is Gaurav.
Hi
Rai.
everyone.
Hi, Priyali. Hi, good to
Hello,
see you.
hi, hi.
Wonderful to see you.
Gaurav, say hi.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you.
Gaurav, hi. How are you
This is
doing?
Gaurav.
Welcome.
Thank you. Hi.
Wonderful to see you all. Anybody else? Great. Hope to see you more often at our club. And those prospective Rotarians, do send in an application. We would like to have you as members of our club. All right. Going forward, just a couple of things I wanted to highlight. One is we had an excellent installation ceremony last week. The directors and the board was installed last week. We had close to 35 Rotarians attending and at least 15 hands Rotary. It went out very well. Past district donor Samir Hiryani was the chief guest, and we had a fantastic time out there. We missed the others who could not join us in person. Hopefully, we going to have some more fellowship time, and we'll be able to meet up soon. I had mentioned during my talk the other day that we have a program called Sahayoga, which is joining hands with rural clubs and doing projects with them. We were initially allotted Rotary Club of Tumkur City, but due to some reason that's been changed. We have been given Rotary Club of Nittur. So Nittur is somewhere close to Gubbi, so 100 kilometers from here. And tomorrow, Community Service Director Sadashiv and I are traveling to Nittur to meet with them. They have a joint meeting there and to see how we can explore and do some projects together. Also, last week we had a community service activity of donating sports equipment to a government school in Shantinagar. It's an orphanage in Shantinagar where we donated some sports equipment. So more happening. The directors are already cracking and lots of things happening in the next couple of months. We'll see good things happening, I guess. So that's it from my side. Let's see what Nanda has to say from the announcements perspective. Ananda, over to you. Nanda, can you unmute?
Good evening. Well, I've noticed that the WhatsApp messages in the boards have come down. Probably all of you have been busy in the offices now since you've all got to work now. And let's hope that we'll all be able to meet soon on a physical platform. Now, coming to my announcements, this week seems to be a dry week. There are no birthdays or anniversaries that are being celebrated this week. As the president said that last week at our installation, we had about 49 members, 14 hands, and 8 guests. A total of 71 members attended, which gave an attendance of about 94.5%. We also had our first youth services meeting on Friday the 16th. The community services also met on the 17th. And again, as the president said, they donated some sports equipment, and they also made a project visit to Hoskote, the afforestation program, and the feedback was quite positive. Now, coming to the forthcoming week, the International Services Committee are having their first meeting tomorrow at 7 p.m. on the Zoom platform. The Vocational Services Committee will also be holding their first meeting on Saturday at 7 p.m. on the Zoom platform. And the next weekly meeting on Thursday, 29th of July at 7 p.m. will be a club assembly and the business meet, which will be preceded by a fellowship at 6:30 p.m. This will be a hybrid meeting, but we also look forward to members attending the meeting in person. A message seeking confirmations of the attendance in person will be sent out in the next 2 days, and I request all the members to please confirm if attending, so that the food arrangements and the seating arrangements can be made at RHL. And before I close, let me once again request you. I had forwarded a request for the PAN card and Aadhaar copy details, because so as to comply with the new tax regulations regarding the donations which we are receiving from all of you. Therefore, I look forward to receiving them soon. In the last 1 day has quite been positive. I've received replies from about 15 members. So I hope to close this in the next 1 week. That's it from my side for this week. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Nanda. Thank you so much. Now we have a Rotary classification talk. For the benefit of non-Rotarians here, Rotarians are given membership to a club based on a classification. A classification has to do with your profession, and a club is required not to have a duplicate classification. So if there is one particular profession already present, then that member will not be given membership into that club. He has to seek some other club where they don't have a classification. Because classification is very important from a club's perspective. And in most meetings, we give one of the Rotarians an opportunity to come up and speak for a minute about their classification so that we get to know them better. So today we have our Sergeant at Arms, Sudeep Kalro, talking about his classification. Sudeep, unmute and over to you.
Thank you, President. Good evening, everyone. So happy to see you all. My name is Sudeep. I'm here for the classification talk, which is general insurance. Now, life is full of risk. That's what makes it interesting and exciting. But some unexpected event can really put you at risk. So general insurance helps us to protect ourselves and the things we value, such as our health, cars, homes, and other valuables from financial impact of risk due to fire, flood, storm, illness, injury, car accident, travel mishap. So any form of non-life insurance falls under the general insurance category. And I'm a successful general insurance advisor with more than a decade of experience, having more than 1,000 customers across city who trust my services and rely on me for their general insurance needs. Now, insurance, when it comes to India, even though insurance companies are betting big on digital platforms, people in India consider insurance to be a very complex product, and they prefer a professional insurance advisor for a better understanding on the policy feature, add-on, and the prices, the trusted insurance advisor who stands with them in the event of claim. So I'm here to give you quick pointers next time when you buy an insurance that might be of help to you. I'll start with car insurance. That is a major selling product of general insurance today. Everyone has cars and everyone has to insure it every year. So the first pointer would be, when you're buying a car insurance, look at, you're buying a nil depreciation policy where the company pays 100% for the damages. They don't depreciate anything. The second thing you'll have to look at is buy a policy which protects your engine even in a non-accidental claim. So in case of flood or in case of water ingression into the engine, it's very important the insurance company pays for the engine replacement. And the third one would be buy a policy which also pays for the key replacement. Today, most of the premium car key cost you about 50,000 rupees. And if you lose that, you can also claim for a key. So these are the 3 pointers which are important when you look at buying a car insurance. Talking about health insurance, which is need of the hour, you'll have to look at buying a health insurance which has no room rent limit, because post-COVID, hospitals are really charging 10 times more the room rent than the normal what they used to charge. and look at what is the no claim bonus the company will give you next year in case of no claim. And the most important in today's date in the COVID era would be buy a policy which pays for consumables, because if a person is treated with COVID, 50% of his bill goes towards the consumables, right? So these are the pointers what you'll have to look at when you buy a car and health insurance. I'm going to leave you with a few basic principles of general insurance, which is insurable interest, utmost good faith, proximate cost, indemnity, subrogation, and contribution. And I'm going to leave you all with a positive quote on insurance, which I like. In India, we don't say I love you. We say insurance karvalo, and we think it's beautiful. Thank you all.
Thank you, Sudeep, for that very interesting classification talk. Thank you for those pointers. I need to go back and check if I have met any of those conditions that you've given me. All right, without any further ado, I'd like to invite Rotarian Rohit Karant to introduce our guest of honor, Hari Menon. Rohit, over to you.
Thank you, President Vinod Jan. Just an audio check. Are you able to hear me clearly?
Yeah.
It's not too bad. It isn't great, but it's not too bad. Please go ahead.
Okay, let me try. All right, yeah. So yeah, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It gives me great pleasure in introducing our guest speaker of today, Mr. Hari Menon. Mr. Hari Menon graduated with an MSc from BITS Pilani in the year 1983. He started his career with ORG Systems, subsequently moving on to work with many of the best and most respected names in the country, including TVS Electronics, Wipro Infotech, Planetasia.com, where he was the head, and Integrated Data Systems. He was also the CEO of India Skills, the vocational education joint venture between Manipal Education Group and the City and Guilds UK. Hari's entrepreneurial journey began in 1999 when he co-founded FabMart, one of the pioneers in e-commerce in India, and its physical extension, FabMall, a chain of grocery stores in South India, which was acquired by the Aditya Birla Group in 2006 and subsequently renamed as More. Hari Menon is the CEO, as you all know, of BigBasket.com, a company co-founded in December 2011, with a vision of setting up India's finest online food and groceries company. BigBasket, India's largest online supermarket, delivers the entire range of groceries, fresh fruits, vegetables, dairy products, processed foods, personal care products, and a wide range of household products in 26 cities in India. Their range has 45,000 products and over 1,000 brands. The key to success of BigBasket lies in their deep understanding of the grocery and perishable supply chain, working closely with over 15,000 farmers, constant innovation using technology, and their unmatchable, as you would all, I'm sure, agree, customer service. BigBasket delivers more than 350,000 orders per day and has a team of 25,000 people and a base of 12 million customers. Mr. Menon has received widespread recognition for his extraordinary contribution as an entrepreneur. He and his company are recipients of prominent awards, namely the Best Online Grocer at the Coca-Cola Golden Spoon Awards in 2016, first runner-up at the Global E-Commerce Summit Awards held in Barcelona, Best Retail and E-Commerce App of the Year at the AWS Mobility Awards in 2017, rated the top brand in Forrester's India Customer Experience Index in 2016, and more recently, BigBasket was awarded the Startup of the Year at the Business Standard Annual Awards 2019. To his independent credit, Mr. Menon has been awarded for entrepreneurship by the Indira Group of Institutions, Audi Ritz Icon Awards from Ritz Lifestyle Magazine in the category of entrepreneurship, and Champion of Tomorrow by CEO India Magazine. He's a regular speaker at most major retail and e-commerce forums and events in India. Hari Menon is married to Shanti, daughter of Padma Shri E. Sridharan, the man who changed the face of public transport in India in building the Konkan Railway and the Delhi Metro. His wife Shanti was the founder principal of Gopal International School and the founder principal of Bangalore-based the Dean's Academy. Hari is a fond lover of music and cricket. He plays a mean guitar and used to perform for his rock band, The Thunk, at BITS Pilani. To quote our Rotarian Venkat, I'm sure Mr. Menon will inspire us to dream and dream big. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming the man who gave India one of its earliest online stores and changed the face of grocery shopping in India, Mr. Hari Menon. Thank you. Over to you, Mr. Menon.
Indeed, privileged to have Hari Menon with us. I must say I am one of the lazy person that I'm one of the earliest users of the Big Basket many years ago. I'm sure before many of you out here. Hari, welcome and over to you.
Thank you so much. This is one of those longest introductions actually I've ever seen that people. So, okay, so let me just quickly get started, right? So what I'm going to do is, spend a little time talking about, a topic which I think Prashant chose for me. I'm hoping I can keep calling him, calling him Pachu. So it is, I think what we do is, sorry, can you hear me?
Yeah, just a sec, somebody, I'm going to unmute somebody.
Can you mute everyone else?
Yeah, muted. Yes, go ahead, Hari. Sorry.
Yeah. So essentially, what he was wanting, me to do is talk about what it takes to basically build a startup, right? And that's something which I think I can really, talk about. I spend a lot of time talking about it, to people. So I will just do that for the next maybe about 20-25 minutes. And, I just want to spend a lot more time maybe answering questions, because that's what I just prefer doing, rather than, making it just a one-sided monologue. So let me quickly start. I think essentially for a startup, to take off and a startup to eventually win, in my mind, there are just three things that are most important. And all of them have come with a lot of experience since '99, since the time I basically set up my first startup. And a lot of that I've put together into what I feel are the three most important aspects for a startup to first start, and then, of course, hopefully become, scale and become successful. But before I get to those 3 points, I think I'm assuming one thing, that what is already available is basically an idea, right? And that I think we all realize, we all know we should have. You need an idea. I'll spend just a minute on what I think the best kind of ideas should be. One is, in my view, I think that idea should be as current as possible, right? And this is something that's coming out of sheer practical experience. I mean, not to say that you needn't have an idea which is futuristic, right? And the only thing is that for things to work, for investors to come and invest in a venture, for investors to get excited, they look at opportunities that are almost immediate, right? And that will disrupt businesses immediately at that moment. So ideally, pick up something which is current, which is right now, and so that helps you raise money, get investors on board much faster than an idea that will take shape in the future, right? Nothing wrong in doing it. The only thing is, on things like that, it becomes a little harder to raise money. So if you have enough money, if you have capital available, then you can obviously do that. That's one. Second is obviously the simple things like, having a great product market fix. And that's one thing I think, a lot of people assume that you have a product market fit, right? And in my opinion, unless it is really researched, and unless you really go out there and speak to customers, speak to potential consumers, right, you will never get the right, product market fit. And I find, out of experience, people normally tend to miss that, and they all believe that I have it with me, I understand this product, and I know it will work, I know there's a product market fit. But I think many a times I've seen people failing because you just didn't go out to the market and research it enough, right? And when you hit the market, you realize that there isn't a product market fit in the marketplace. So I think it's good to invest early in doing that research with consumers before you get onto that situation, because everybody once gets the idea, you're so attached to that idea, you think it will work. That's how entrepreneurs are, right? And I'll tell you why you shouldn't get so attached, and I'll talk about it as we go along, right? Needless to say that the idea should be scalable, right? there is no point in building out something which is going to be small and tiny. There's no harm in doing it. So people choose to do it as hobbies. People choose to do it as wanting to just keep themselves busy. But if you're wanting to build a serious business, and if you're wanting to raise a serious amount of capital, then you need an idea which is scalable. Most importantly, and this is something which is the toughest, right, and the hardest to achieve, is that scale must come profitably, right? It's really important to build a business which can scale profitably, right? And this you must ingrain in the DNA of the organization from day one, right? You tend to think that I will scale, blow a lot of money, and many a times there is no coming back. There is no getting out of it because you've got so deep into a particular rut that you're unable to come out of it. So it's important to kind of, when you build the business plan, build it so that there is sufficient scale in the business, and the scale comes profitably, right? That's the important mantra to keep. So these are a few things that I believe we should keep in mind when we put together an idea, and that is the -1 stage, and that I think most people typically have. I just gave a few pointers in terms of things that I think people should really invest in. Simple things: research it, make sure that consumers want that product, right? And you'll only know when you speak to them, right? That's the most important thing. So coming to the three most important things in my view that you need. One, the first one is what I call a ready ecosystem, right, to build your business. And let me explain this. And this goes back to my first venture, 1999, right? Me and my colleague, who's there with me in this current venture also, were working in a company that was Planet Asia, and we were doing some work around internet services and stuff. In fact, that was the first company to build websites in India way back in 1999, and we used to charge something like 5-6 lakhs for a website. And while we were building that business, very soon that building a website became 5,000 rupees, right? You could actually look at trees in Bangalore, where you'll have a small little poster there saying website for 5,000, right? And that was one of the things that I think a business started without knowing where it's going to, finally end up. But that's not the business example I'm going to talk about. But we were there, and very accidentally, we happened to go to a multinational bank's office, and both of us are sitting there. And we were actually pitching for what was India's first payment gateway, right? We were an internet services company, and we were doing websites. We were also doing intranets. We were also building solutions for companies, internet-based solutions. So this bank wanted to build a payment gateway because this bank believed that e-commerce is going to come. And when e-commerce comes, you need a payment gateway to basically, make your payments, right? And while we were sitting there, this person said, if you have to build a payment gateway, you need a website. What's the point in building a payment gateway when there is no e-commerce happening, right? There's no commerce side. So we'll figure out whether the bank itself will build that website, etc., etc. So those discussions went on. We went back, third meeting, fourth meeting. Suddenly he said that we've got instructions from the US saying that, listen, reminding us that we are a bank, and banks don't build e-commerce websites, right? So they were stuck because they realized that they will build a payment gateway and there's no user for that payment gateway. And so both of us looked at each other, came down the lift. It was in Prestige Meridian, MG Road, way back in 1990, end of 98. Looked at each other and said, we probably heard something at that point in time. We weren't even thinking of starting up, right? There was nothing in the family. There's no business in the family. So we just looked at each other and something just hit us saying, is there an opportunity for us to take what the bank doesn't want to do and build, right? A lot of times startups happen not through inspiration, not through, meeting somebody, but just pure accidentally, right? You know what we did? Took the next lift up and went and told them, listen, we'll build that website for you, right? Got the lift down, went back to Planet Asia, spoke to our respective, spoke to the founder and the owner of the company and said, we are leaving, we're off, we're starting a company. And that's how this whole startup happened. When we started at that point in time, just I think a few months before, there was a gentleman by name, I think Rajesh Jain, if I'm not mistaken, sold his company to Satyam, right? For a few $1 million, right? A few $100 million, sorry. It was I think $130, $140 million. And that was the first ever sale of a startup, right? Of a so-called startup that happened, right? So 6 months back, and that created so much frenzy in the marketplace, in the environment, that you suddenly found hundreds of startups basically coming up, right? And I'm just leading this to a point on this whole ecosystem. So basically, at that point in time when we started, we were going out wanting to raise money, and our starting up was nothing to do with that, with hearing Rajesh Jain, having made a few $1 million, because I think by that time we were already about 37, 38 years old, and we weren't the typical 25, 26 years, that the startups those days, were, right? So we were doing our stuff in terms of talking to companies, going and raising money, and all of a sudden around us, we found that hundreds of startups are basically happening, right? VCs are funding companies left, right, and center. There are people just coming out of colleges, starting a company with a .com attached to it. That one sale caused this entire frenzy, right? And let me tell you, what were these companies trying to do? They were trying to build businesses on the internet. Okay, that was all these companies. So IITs, people coming out, 25-year-old, 26-year-old, set up a business plan with a .com in it, and within 2 weeks you get funded. Typical funding cycles, let me tell you, is 6 months, right? Anywhere between 4 to 6 months. They were getting funded at that point in time in some 2 weeks, 3 weeks, right? Thanks to that frenzy, we also got funded in 2-3 weeks, right? And we said, good, this has at least helped us in raising that money, but we were just wondering what is happening here, right? So fine, companies came, built the businesses. We of course put our heads down, because we were building the first e-commerce entity of India, which is a true e-commerce site. Everybody else was doing photography.com, this.com, that.com, books.com, all kinds of, I remember once we went to Bombay to meet an investor, and I landed in Mumbai, both of us, me and my partner, and we drove from there to Nariman Point, and we found 83 .com holdings, right, between Mumbai Santa Cruz Airport and Nariman Point. Absolutely unbelievable, crazy. This is all 99. Now let me tell you what the ecosystem there was, right? When we started our business, we got our funding, we got our money, and then we started our business. When we started our business, basically there was no broadband, right? Businesses are getting built on the internet, including ours, on dial-up lines. So you typically can go and have a cup of tea and come back by the time your page loads, right? That was the state of internet at that point in time, 99, right? Hundreds of companies getting funded, right? That's one. There isn't a payment gateway available to make online payments. So you're setting up businesses on the internet, and there is no mechanism to pay online. So what were we doing? We were having EDC machines in our office, some 8-10 people sitting there. Customers are calling you and giving you their card number. Customers are giving you the CVV, right? And that's how you're transacting. Very soon there was news saying that somebody's bank account got, lost money, right? And all of a sudden people just stopped, thinking that the fastest way to lose money is to shop on the internet, right? Obviously, because there was no payment gateway, there was no secure way to pay, right? And you would give all your details out. There weren't good logistics networks. Technology was just about happening, right? Microsoft had just launched its first suite on e-commerce, and which we were one of the first pilots and stuff like that we were doing. Just imagine, right? You're building a business for scale. You're building a business, hopefully to become profitable. You've raised money. On the internet, you're building a business when there is no ecosystem, right? Within 6-8 months, that bubble burst, right? And it was a bloodbath after that, absolute bloodbath. You will all remember this, right? This way back in 2000, which was one of the biggest internet, bubbles that burst, not only in India, globally, right? That took 5-6 years to recover. After that, 5-6 years to recover, right? It was so bad. People just went out of jobs, a lot of these people had come out of colleges and started, right? So for them to even get back to jobs was getting difficult after that, right? We stayed there. We survived because we had money. We kept telling ourselves, very attached entrepreneurs, no, it'll happen, broadband, something will come, internet will work, payment gateway will happen. We were just talking to a bank who's building one, right? So just stay there. cut your burn, cut your costs, right? And just hang in there. So we hung in, and then I'll tell you some good things happened, after that. So this is my example of making sure that when you start something, make sure that the ecosystem that you need to start that business is available in all forms, right? Now, this varies by business. This varies by industry. I'll tell you one more experience of mine, which is not entrepreneurial, but almost entrepreneurial, because after I finished my first journey, which finished actually in 2007, 2006, when we had a good end, actually, when we sold the business to the Aditya Birla Group and stuff like that. And I'll spend a few minutes on that journey. I came out and then we sold the business and everything was done. So my partners were telling me that, now what's next? Let's figure out something. I was by then I'm very tired because we had a extremely roller coaster ride in that first journey. Absolutely roller coaster. In fact, 2000, when we were sitting there, we didn't know what to do, right? No business, nobody wanting to transact on the internet, because if you transact, you lose money. Dial-up lines, etc., etc. So there is no hope of building a business around that, and you have to just wait it out, right? So that was the state we were in. Then we waited, we got into another business, and that did well. And I'll come to that in a little while. Then I said I need to take a break, because if I came home and told my wife that I'm going to start another business, I would have got thrown out of home, because we really went through difficult, tough times in those 6-7 years of building out FabMart and FabMall. Well, I listened to her and then decided that I'll do something entrepreneurial, but maybe I'll do it with an organization. So at that point in time, there was a person I knew in Manipal who called me and said, would you like to set up a vocational education company? I said, sure. I didn't know anything about it, but I said it's worth giving a try. And when I started, I got very passionate about it, because that is a good way of giving back to society. You're actually taking people who failed, not gone to school, and trying to basically get them skilled so that they can get a job. Great stuff, right? Another great example of how there was absolutely no ecosystem for the vocational training system at that point in time. And I believe that it still doesn't exist to the extent that it should in India, because that's the other foot I have after having gone through so much on vocational education, right? And I work with companies. I sit on the board of a few companies. I work closely with NSDC, etc., etc. But I still think India has a long way to go, but we've come a long way. You're setting up a business which basically, you're trying to get somebody to join a course, right? When that person comes in, right, there is absolutely no legitimacy to the certificate that person gets at the end of the course, right? Absolutely no legitimacy, right? If you go to a company for a job with that certification, you get the same salary as somebody who goes there without that certification, right? When you get somebody for a course, he normally stays there for 15 days. It's a 3-month course, 20 days, 30 days, runs away, right? That was the state. India had 18,000 ITIs. 80% of them were defunct. The concept of vocational education and certification didn't exist in the country, right? And Manipal was trying to put together a business around vocational education to do this, a for-profit business, right? Which means they would set up the skill development centers, and hoping that people will come and join, and hoping that industry will hire them and give them better treatment, or give them preferred treatment, little higher salaries, because they've got a certification, because that's how it works world over. For example, in UK, if you're a certified City and Guilds certified electrician, you get paid double, right? People will hire you only because you're certified, right? In the tube, in the metro, in London, right? If you want to work there, you need to be insured, right? To work in the tube, in the London tube. To get the insurance certificate, you have to be certified. So there are strong linkages countries have built over a period of time, and that's why that ecosystem got created. In India, with a certification, you will not even be able to get married. The reason being that to get married, you need a degree. And that degree is some stupid BA, BCom from some place which means nothing, right? That's what I meant by not having any legitimacy in this whole certification. That's my second experience of having started a business when the ecosystem was not ready, right? And none of the for-profit businesses that started some time back on vocational education ever took off. Finally, it all became a government-funded program, right? So government funds these courses. You find, if there is no skin in the game from the student, then the student will be there, take the money and run away, right? jobs are becoming a big issue. It's improved a lot, right? It's not as bad as what I'm talking when I joined, but that's the second example of starting something when there was no ecosystem, right? That certificate is meaningless to that person unless you created a meaning to it, and unless you made it legitimate. That certificate was always useless. Coming back, this is what I think is what I mean by ecosystem, right? And when you start a business, please make sure that the ecosystem for your business is ready. Whatever aspects you need for the business is ready, and don't think it will come if it's not there, right? It's very, very difficult, to just keep waiting when you start running out of money and you get all kinds of problems, right? The one little addition that I want to also talk about in this whole thing is that while you're building your business, right? Assume ecosystem is there, everything is fine. You'll start building your business, right? The second most important thing is capital, right? And let me just talk about capital. It's obviously an obvious thing, right? You need money for to start a business. But let me explain what I mean by capital and why it's very important to look at it. Before I come to capital, there is one thing an entrepreneur should always keep in mind, is that entrepreneurs get very, very attached to their businesses, very attached, right? Emotionally attached, right? And so if something goes wrong in the business, they are just not willing to pivot. Just not willing to pivot, right? They will keep on trying the same thing, it'll happen. And that is the state we were in that online business in 99 when the whole thing collapsed. We decided to continue, right? And we said there will be some hope, some ray of hope, that will come, right? And we were three of us, and I remember we were on a flight back from Pune. And at that point in time, when there was no business, we had the courage to even start an online grocery business. Can you believe it? Because the most difficult thing in life is online grocery. And in a situation when ecosystem is not ready, we decided to start online grocery. Well, I was, looking back, I'm saying, how the hell did I even have the courage to do that? Three of us, actually. So we were going to Pune on some online grocery business. We had set it up there, and we're coming back. And we were telling ourselves, three of us on the flight, three founders, sitting there, now what do we do? Business is just collapsing. There's nothing happening. Online business is just not there. The bubble has burst, right? What do we do now? We had actually by that time built the little bit of the online grocery business, and hence we had built some warehouses and stuff like that. So one of my partners said, listen, I have an idea. Why don't we start a physical grocery chain, right? This online business, we'll just park it. We'll keep it there, low burn. Hopefully sometime, something will happen. So whatever we are attached to it, we don't want to shut it down. We'll keep it there. Fair. But what should we do now? We should start a physical grocery business. I said, wow. So we have three of us, right? The other gentleman also said, oh, fantastic idea.
Participants.
Sorry. So the other gentleman also said, fantastic idea. And at that point in time, I was this emotional, attached entrepreneur who was not willing to look at anything else, but keeping on, going with that online business, which was not working. In fact, at one point in time, I had half a mind to open the aircraft door and maybe jump out, because I said, what are these guys talking about? How can we not just pursue what we're doing? But democratic country, 2 versus 1, I lost that battle. And today, I think that is the best and the most battle that I lost. I'm so happy about it, because we went ahead to build a physical online business. And that business, once we started doing, there was no looking back, right? We scaled that business to about 210 stores in South India under 2 brand names, which was FabMall and Trinetra, because 2 companies merged. We became a fairly large entity, in the physical grocery space. And in 2007, Mr. Aditya Birla Group, Mr. Kumar Mangalam Birla walks up and says that I will buy this business completely, 100%, right? Now just imagine if that decision on that flight, right, was to say, let's just continue online, right? I think I wouldn't have had the courage to start Big Basket right after that, because we would have been, out and gone, down in the dumps, right? And that's what I mean by pivot, right? You must figure out ways to actually look at doing something which is adjacent, right? Or leverage on what you've built and build something else, right? Entrepreneurs get very attached. I think we need to take that attachment out. It's just a piece that I wanted to leave behind before I get to capital. Very quickly on capital, right? Capital is all about raising money, right? I think the mistake people make fundamentally in raising capital is that they optimize more for valuation optimize more for equity that they'll hold rather than raising enough money for the business to get profitable. Let me explain this, right? A business plan, typically what you should do is make a 3-year out or a 5-year out business plan, right? Anything less doesn't work. When you make a 3-year out, 5-year out business plan, there is a certain amount of cash you need to build that business. You need cash to basically fund losses. You need cash for capital expenditure in case you have. You'll need losses to fund maybe working capital. I mean, you need money to fund working capital. That's what you need capital for, right? Most people, what the mistake that they make, and I find a lot of people, I wouldn't say most, is that they optimize for equity holding rather than capital required to build the business out. And so I will raise lesser amount of money to start with because I want to have higher equity in the business, right? So what happens is you're raising money only for 6 months, 8 months, 9 months, because all you want to do is you're optimizing for equity holding and you hold more in the company, right? Within 9 months, you're starting to run out of money. You're again back to square one, raising money. You know, raising money is one of the most humiliating experiences. Humiliating, right? It's all very nice, right? These VCs will tell you great things, and I hope there's no VC here. You know, and if there is, then you know, my humble request is to not to talk about what I'm going to talk, because this is going to come out in the form of a book, and that book is going to be called The Dark Side of Entrepreneurship, because it talks about a lot of these painful parts of entrepreneurship. Because if I release that book now, then nobody will fund me anymore. So coming back, right? So there is this whole belief that I should hold more equity in the company rather than raising capital. And that's the fundamental flaw, right? I think you will necessarily need to give away and raise enough capital for 3 to 5 years for you to be a successful entrepreneur, because you cannot keep going back every 5-6 months to raise money, because raising money is a tough, humiliating experience. And so it's always better to give away. Of course, you'll negotiate, right? Everybody negotiates, but you don't negotiate to the extent that I don't want to give up equity and raise lesser money than what I actually need, right? And this is a mistake people make. Okay, that is what I want to talk about capital, because raising money is a given, but I think fundamentally raise more money than what you need. And that's my typical mantra, right? Raise more money than what you need. And hence you will need to give into diluting a little more than what you like. And hence don't optimize on equity holding. Optimize for raising capital, which is required for you for the journey upfront. That's number 2. And finally, it's the team, right? And team is, again, simple thing, right? Everybody knows that you have to build a good team, you have to build a great team and all that. And when I say team, I'm only talking founding team, right? And this is something that I think what we have done as founders is something that I've not seen happening. You know, we've been together as founders for over 25 years. I haven't seen founding teams lasting that long, right? And they don't last that long for a single reason, right? Is that they don't build that team on trust, right? They tend to build the team more on skills rather than trust. I think the fundamental thing when you build a founding team is that the first basic thing is that you must trust each other, right? And you must never at any point get worried about another co-founder of yours, right, doing something behind your back. You should never ever worry about it. And this is hard, right? It's not easy, right? And this is what you should strive to do, is all I'm leaving the thought with, right? When you want to create your founding team, create it first with the element of making sure that you will trust each other. It is not about skill. You can hire skills. You can get people with the required skills, right? Because eventually you're not going to be using any of your skills. You're going to get people to actually do a lot of work and deliver. But the co-founding team must be seen as people who trust each other, must be people who trust each other. And this is the only mantra that you must think of, and not skill. People do it the other way, right? People get co-founders because of skill and don't worry too much about building that trust, as you keep going along, right? And I found most founding teams breaking was single biggest reason is that I don't think they made sure, I don't think they spent enough time to tell each other that, listen, first let's realize that we should trust each other, right? And I think at that level, when you're mature founders, you understand this well, right? But if you don't talk about it and you don't make sure that that's the fundamental reason for people to get together, right? Then you miss that point, and then you believe that skills are more important, right? And then this trust deficit starts playing. And when trust deficit starts playing, it shows up with employees, it shows up at the board, it shows up at potential investor, meets, etc., etc. Because people see through it, right? And that becomes the biggest reason for teams to break, which eventually even results in companies, not going further, because, then it gets very difficult, for you to kind of, get together. And how many founders typically? I think the number should not be more than 3. 2 or 3 is the best. Should you have one? Answer is no. Because when you're building a startup, you go through extremely difficult phases, right? And to solve all those problems yourself becomes very, very difficult, right? So it's best to have a team of 2 or 3, founding team of 2 and 3, so that you can bounce ideas with each other. You can actually do a lot, right? In terms of talking, bouncing ideas and stuff, right? And that's really, really critical. Being a single founder is always difficult, and that's why you'll find very few single founders, right? Because it's not easy when you build a startup to scale. So essentially that's what I had. I don't know from a time perspective whether I've overrun, but I think these are my 3 biggest mantras to basically make sure a startup starts and a startup hopefully will succeed: ecosystem, capital, the team, the founding team. Thank you very much. Actually, I'm really keen to see whether I can answer questions, because that's what I love doing.
Absolutely fantastic, Hari. I wish you didn't have to stop talking, because I could relate to each and every word that you're saying. Being a fresh tech entrepreneur recently, I could actually relate to each and every word. Absolutely brilliant. Loved every word you're saying. May I now open out to questions from our audience, please? Please unmute and ask a question. Happy to have at least a handful of questions.
Vinod, this is TV Mohan here.
Yes, TV, please go ahead.
Mr. Menon, thank you very much for such a wonderful expose of your journey. I just want to ask you something. I've met a lot of people who had similar experiences. I want to ask you something completely different. How much does destiny play in your success?
It actually plays a big role, right? So because I think what more than destiny, I think what plays a bigger role is luck, right? In a lot of these ventures, actually, you also need to get a little lucky, right? Because you'll have all the ingredients that I talked about just now, right? All the ingredients. And you'll find people not able to raise money, right? And that's because, this venture capital cycle has gone downward. This venture capitalists, just hope there aren't too many of them. So here, that venture capitalists, they work like herds actually, right? So this herd mentality will make sure that, it goes in one direction once, and then it starts coming down for reasons it's like the stock market, right? The reasons for stock market to go up and down is sometimes you don't even figure why. It's all very sentiment driven. So there is a lot of element of luck, and hence, I think destiny plays a very, very, very critical role, right? Because what you're destined to become at the end of what you want to do, you never know. And so that's where you need to get lucky, many times.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, Shesh, go ahead.
I got one question for you. In your business, you have been very successful, and you're also helping the farmers. Is there a method or a measurement by which a farmer gets more benefit by coming to Big Basket and then get associated compared to any other method? There are so many other methods of agricultural products being marketed.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for asking this question. I can speak on this subject for hours, but I'm not going to do that because it's an extremely strategic piece for Big Basket, absolute strategic piece, right? We call it the Farmer Connect program. We started this about 6 or 7 years ago. I must tell you that every city that we start with fruits and vegetables. And that's not something that global grocery retailers do, e-retailers do. They start with other categories because it's simple, right? We chose to, in 2011, when we started our first city, we started with fruits and vegetables. It's a very strategic call that we took, because we believe that if you want to give a perception of quality, it is not Surf Excel. It is your fruits and vegetables that gives you a perception of quality, right? So we chose to do that from day one. We also had a path to tell ourselves that once we reach certain scale, we'll work directly with farmers. We've got this Farmer Connect program. We work with about 18,000 farmers today, across the country. We have got 65 collection centers, which are all located at farming locations. Each of these collection centers buy directly from farmers. We also have got agronomists there who work very closely with farmers. We are setting up a trust that will take care of farmers' families in terms of education and stuff like that. So we are doing huge amount of work. Just to tell you what this all does to us, it is 18% of our business, right? The equivalent of a modern trade store, fruits and vegetables, is 5 to 6%. For big basket, it's 18% of our business. Fresh produce, right? Just fresh, as a category. Farmers today, by supplying to us directly, get anywhere between 8 to 15% more than what they would have got by going through the intermediary system and going through the mandis. Half their money goes away in amongst the middlemen, right? They don't even get paid on time, because that's the second thing I'll come to. So they get paid 8 to 15% more than what they would have got from the system. Complete transparency in pricing. We've got digital displays in each of our collection centers. These are all in villages, right? These are all in farming locations where they come and see the price, right? And know what the price is for every farmer. So there is no differentiation between farmers in a particular location. Second, we are the only people who pay the farmer on day 2. And that is an automatic process. When he supplies to me at my collection center, on day 2, the money goes directly into his account. He doesn't even have to ask for it. This we do with all 18,000 farmers. You know what this has done? It has helped him increase his savings, because normally they get paid by cash in that intermediary system. And there are 2 people standing behind him from whom he's borrowed money, and all that he has in his hand goes away. These are Jan Dhan accounts that these farmers have opened thanks to the government. And the money goes directly to the bank account, because of which savings have gone up. So what they earn has gone up, their savings have gone up, right? This is what the farmer benefits by basically working directly with Basket. This is a very, very, very strategic, important program for us. The government is happy about what we're doing. We're doing a lot of work around this to make sure that we help the farmers.
I got one more question to add on that. Since you talked about a better ecosystem, I'm now talking on behalf of farmers. Do you create the ecosystem in such a way, the latest techniques, latest method of farming, you collect the data on that and then educate them so that you make everything, let's say, a hybrid product. Whatever you may call, I hear that you have huge potatoes or tomatoes or whatever. Do you spend money on that to create a better ecosystem for farmers?
Yes, we do. So what we do is, that's what our agronomists do actually, right? Where we work very, very closely with farmers. We actually work very closely with the local government system there, right? And make sure that all the benefits that the farmer needs goes there, right? We are investing in the farmer's life, right? I told you we set up a trust, right? So we are actually, the programs are to basically educate farmer, their children, and their families, etc., right? So we invest in basically his life, right? Secondly, we invest in technology, which we are currently working, for example, with the government on multiple things. Right now, we are working on a technology which essentially will map the farmer's land by using satellite images, right? Which will basically help him project yield, and which in turn will help him project price at harvest, when he harvests. So when he harvests today, 40 days later is the harvest, he's able to project price based on what the yield will be. And that we are doing through this whole satellite imaging project, right, that we are working on with the government of India. So So there are multiple things that we do to make sure that we are investing in technology to make sure that at the end of the day, we're trying to get best produce for us. And we're trying to help enable the farmer to do that.
Shiva Kumar, you have a question? Shiva?
Yeah, thank you, so Hari Menon, thank you. You made our evening. I have two interrelated questions. One is, today we have an ecosystem, startup ecosystem, which is, number 3 globally. How do you see this evolving in future? Are we fit for future? That's a slightly larger question. But for every successful startup, we also have many startups which are unsuccessful. Any message to them as to how they rebound? From I know there are equal number of startups who have not made it. I know you. So any learnings and any messages from on that, Mr. Hari Menon?
There was one very strong message I gave, right? So, which is basically a message on pivoting, right? Let me first finish the first question answer, which is very simple. I think India is going to become, the global hub for the startup ecosystem. I think the number of unicorns that are getting created, right? I just saw a chat question from, I think, one of the YouTubers asking, why are VCs funding loss-making organizations, right? And that's a separate story altogether, right? I don't want to spend too much time on why they do it. I know why they do it, and I know why they shouldn't do it. If I start speaking, it will get a little controversial. So I don't want to, get to that piece. But let me come back. India is going to become, after China, right? We'll go ahead of the US very quickly, right? Because US is very, very tech focused, right? And it's all about the Silicon Valley, right there. But India will have businesses across the board, right? Across sectors, right? That we'll build, right? Today, there are 500-600 unicorns already, right? Or 300-400 unicorns, which is not something which any country has seen. So I think India will become a hub for startups. That's clear. Ecosystem will build for it, right? Everything will fall in place from that perspective, right? So the second is, failure is something that, that question on destiny, right? Finally it's, if the business has to fail, it'll fail if it's written there. But the important thing is to watch at every stage what could be the cause of failure, if at all, and if you're able to see it, right? And that's what you should do. And that is what I feel many a times, that these entrepreneurs get so emotionally attached to the business that they just miss this point. They just miss it, right? Because they think that everything is hunky-dory, everything is fine, you're just building, you're building. In many a times you get even funded, right, for it. But you're missing those key things which you feel. So this typical question people ask, right? If I take you 5 years back, what would you have done differently? One very standard question, that I keep hearing. And what would I have done differently, that if I think I'd done something wrong, is at that point spotted it, right? I think 5 years back, I should have got into the food business, right? I would have been bigger than Swiggy, because food and grocery are very adjacent. I passed it at that point in time, right? I should have looked at pharmacy. Again, pharmacy and grocery are very adjacent businesses. If you go to a store, you will typically have a pharmacy store attached to it, if you see anywhere, right? So some of these things, you need to keep an eye on, right? But these are missed opportunities. But that doesn't mean that your existing business is struggling. Make sure you're looking at pivot opportunities, right? You must not get attached emotionally, so that you're constantly looking at areas which can cause failure and then pivoting.
Thank you.
I have a quick, okay, I'll go ahead.
So, fantastic. My name is Al Fernandez. You referred to the critical need of trust amongst the partners. But that's excellent. But also what strikes me is that you have built a relationship of trust between yourself and the farmers. To me, one of the biggest problem I work with about quite a few 100,000 farmers also. I'm an NGO. The biggest issue is the trust between the farmer and whoever markets, the middlemen or whatever. Now you have broken that. In other words, you have broken their trust relationships, which were traditional. And you have introduced a whole set of ideas which has built that trust. And you have convinced them that you are going to stay, not just run away tomorrow. Now, okay, one is you pay them tomorrow and all that they don't give the money, and that's another issue. But to me, what do you think was the critical issues of building this trust with the farmer?
So just one issue, right? There is just one single decision I took at one point in time, 5-6 years ago. And it took me some time to convince my team on this. When we were setting up our collection centers and getting our farmers and talking to the farmers, we had two choices, sir. We had two choices. One choice was that, you don't build relationships with the farmers. Instead, every morning, use a very so-called opportunistic approach, which means what I do is that morning, I announce saying I need X kilos of this vegetable, I need Y kilos of this vegetable, I need Z kilos of this vegetable from a particular collection center, which deals with certain set of vegetables. Every morning, I basically say, this is what I need. So all I'm announcing in my digital display is what I want. The farmer that gives me the best price and the best quality is whom I'll buy from. That's one approach to take. And that is the approach a lot of people take, right? People who are exporting and stuff like that. A lot of these collection centers are there for export business. The approach that we choose to take was to say that I will only work with registered farmers.
What do you mean by that?
Farmers who come and register with us. Now, what that initially does is it doesn't give you price discovery, right? But in the long term, this gives you the trust element of the farmer, because he knows that because he's registered with us, I will only work with my registered farmers. My objective is to become 80% of his life. Because initially my volumes are low, right? So the farmer produces, say, 100. I'm able to buy only 20. That becomes 30. That becomes 40. My idea is to make it 80. Because it'll never become 100. Because there's stuff that we'll reject, right? And if you reject 20, he's very happy. He doesn't even have to go to the mandi for the 20, because that's the math he does anyway, right? To make sure that when I get to 80, that farmer is just wedded to me. I will never get this if I do opportunistic, which means anybody comes, I supply. That's another way to work. This single reason, and there's so many people who, told me, sir, it won't work like this. We will not get the price benefit. We will not get this. We will not get that. Actually, 83% of what we sell today comes direct from farmers. And that is why the concern was, right? And so I told them, listen, this is a way to build long-term trust. This is a way to build a long-term business with farmers. This is the only way to build that business. And today we are benefiting like nobody's business because we took that call 6 years ago.
Exactly. This to me is the crux of the problem, because why ENAM and all the government, they have the technology, but they have failed because they have failed to build the trust with the farmer and them. You have done it. Hats off.
Thank you, sir.
Just a quick question in terms of, so you have quite a few critical pieces. One is the farmer piece where you have your supply happens from. The other is your whole consumer piece, understanding the consumer mindset in terms of what they require. The third is your supply chain itself, the e-commerce piece of it. The fourth is your technology piece. How would you prioritize your strength in terms of big baskets? Where do you prioritize that?
My biggest priority is that I am firstly what I tell myself, what am I? Right? This is a very important thing. Again, what we have to internalize, just like the farmer piece, we have to internalize within the company saying, what am I? What is Big Basket? In my view, Big Basket is first a grocer. First, a grocer with technology enabling. Let me explain this, right? A lot of people think of you as a tech company, right?
Correct.
And when you prioritize tech, you forget the fact that you're a grocer. And so all these Farmer Connect programs, my merchandisers and my technology teams work 5 days a week. Merchandisers work 7 days a week. Merchandisers are, it's not about computer and data. It's about going there in the field, choosing the right rice, choosing the right pulses, choosing the right vegetables. That's merchandising. There is a set of FMCG team that works closely with the Unilevers and the P&Gs of the world and understand how that system works so that you get the best merchandise. That is what you are, right? You're fundamentally a grocer enabled by technology. But let me tell you one small secret. When I go to investors, I become technology. Valuation is better. But that's in lighter vein. But I'm just saying, fundamentally, if you ask me, what am I? I am a grocer strongly enabled by technology. So when all this e-commerce and buzz and all starts, people just bucket you as technology. And when you become technology, you're then finding out technology solutions to the customer rather than merchandising solutions.
That's very wonderfully answered. I think we just run out of time. Maybe I'll take one short question. I think Manoj, you have a question. Can you have that quickly so that we run out of time? Extension.
Sure.
10 minutes. Yeah.
Great, Hari. Absolutely stunning presentation. I just loved it. Thank you, Sudeep, for inviting me to this. One simple question. All entrepreneurs, one part they all struggle, I've seen, is on the family side. How much is the sacrifice? How much is it worth it in terms of sacrifice? How much can you sacrifice? Especially from a kid's perspective, that's my question.
It's all in the mind, right? You don't have to sacrifice, right? This is all one absolute myth, right? That, I just spend 48 hours, 24 hours in the office and I'm just spending all my time. I mean, this is really not required. And that's actually, what helped is that we started our business very late. And so some of those things, got ingrained into us, saying that, listen, there is a balance that needs to be done from early days, right? So I really don't think that, you need to, when you start a startup, you have to come home and tell your wife, listen, now I'll see you some 3 years later, right? Or I'll see you for a few hours every day, and I'll come, whenever, and I'm stressed, and I think it's all, you need to tell yourself that, listen, this is like, it's like a job that you do. In fact, job is worse because your boss drives your life, right? As an entrepreneur, you make these choices, right? And it's not saying that, it all depends on where you're working from. You don't need to, you're all over this place, and you could just got to tell yourself that it's easier for an entrepreneur than an employee.
Fantastic, Hari. I think that's one wonderful talk that you've given us. I love the energy with which I think you can continue to go on. You are so passionate about your work, and love to share that. Thank you so much once again. May I now request Rotarian Chinmay Chagiteri to propose the formal vote of thanks? Chinmay?
Thank you, President. I want to, at the outset, thank Hari Menon. I think fantastic talk, like all of them have already said. As an entrepreneur myself, I think this was something that was truly inspirational, especially the 3 tenets of entrepreneurship and how you navigate the system. As entrepreneurs, we always see more failures than success, and I think that journey was articulated beautifully by you. And I think that brings a lot of hope to entrepreneurs like us who are actually building companies. So, Mr. Hari Menon, I can't thank you enough for such a excellent and inspiring story tonight. Thank you for giving your time. I know you keep a very busy schedule, but thank you again for addressing our club. Thank you to the President and the Secretary of Rotary Club of Bangalore Cantonment for giving me this opportunity. Thank you, everyone.
Could we all unmute and give a big round of applause to Hari, please? Just please unmute and give a big round of applause. Thank you very much, Hari. Hope to see you soon. And if we have entrepreneurial problems, we're going to reach out to you and get some tips from you.
Please do.